Okay? Remember, everything is storytelling. Absolutely everything is storytelling. So how close I put one character's head to another. In films, and in pictures, we put characters much closer to each other than we do in life. Okay? So, you know, here we go. In life, she stands here, right? And I'm going to have almost an entire body width between the two of us. But in a picture, I'm going to stand right here, right? You know, I might even be here. You might even go, right? I'm really crowding her space. In life, it really feels weird when you do that. You're getting into somebody else's personal space, right? But in a picture, it's expressing an idea, right? So everything supports and expresses the idea. This guy's cigar is pressed up against her feather boa, or her fur, or whatever that is, right? This guy's cigarette is practically in her ear. I don't even know that there's enough room behind her head for that head to be. I think his nose is inside her skull, right? It's so close in the back, right? And then it's just crowded in, and that's basically a starlet being crowded by the spotlight, okay? All right. Here, okay, this is the triangle at the top. This is a downward-facing triangular composition. You see that? And then there it goes across the top. See? Now again, this guy is so beaten up that, you know, look, I mean, he's really, in a sense, I think he's sort of overacted, right? But, you know, his eyes swollen shut, and she's into it. She wants to see more blood. That's what's interesting about it. She's a nice S-curvy shape. How important is this guy? See these guys from the back? They represent the front of the stage. They represent the front of the stage. In a landscape painting, they would be a bush, literally a bush. So he says the stage, there is the front of the stage, and basically these guys back here are the back of the stage, and you're going to notice that these characters are lined up in a row. He's in the front, or he and she are in the front, or maybe him, and her are in the front row. These characters here are in the second row. This character's in the third row with this character. These guys are in the row after that. You see what I'm talking about? So they're really lined up in a row. That's how he's organizing it, like straight up overlapping planes. Here, again, is the complete picture of her. These are high res, by the way, so you can get in there really and look at these. All right? Now, the other thing about Rockwell is everybody says he's so detailed. Does this look incredibly detailed? This is basically just drawn. See the line work going around the outside edges of this? That's basically just drawn. Okay, so really good Rockwell. Here's another Rockwell. All right, so it's a boy and a girl, okay? When you want something to be very clear and easy to see, you draw it flat. Have I talked about the power of flat in here? Okay? I think I used the foot as an example. You want to show me the boot? Show me the foot from the side, right? And then you use the other foot to create depth. Here, he wants to explain a story in a classic, simple, very clear way. So he shows the boy and girl from the side, obviously the perfect little boy and girl of their era, right? They're essentially wearing the same outfit, little kid outfit. She's wearing a dress, he's wearing shorts and a top, they're both kids, and they're both reading. This here in the background is their imagination, right? So this is, he's literally showing you what they're seeing in their heads. So what is this? This is a device, isn't it? It's a device. He's using an artificial means to tell you a true story, right? So, you know, in a sense, you can say art is a lie which occasionally hints at the truth, right? So here, they're basically creating a situation where this isn't really back here. This is in their heads, right? So, in a sense, that's a lie. It's not really there. It's in their heads. But it's the truth, because it's what they're thinking about. right? Some of these sizes you have to kind of do it. They're all high res. Okay? Also, you know, girls aren't supposed to be as good at shooting marbles as boys, right? Or at least that's what it was in the 40s, you know? So it's funny if the girl beats the boys in the 40s. Now we'll look at it and we'll just think, so what, right? I mean, we just look at it and think kids playing marbles, if they played marbles at all. We just think kids playing marbles. But back then they would say, oh, that's funny, the girl's beating the boys in marbles. It'd be like saying, you know, the girl's beating the boy at boxing or something like that today, right? So, you know, more sort of like, you know, family life. Here he's basically playing it cute. And again, you know, these commercial pieces, sometimes they kind of, I hate to say, they sort of a little bit pander to the lowest common denominator. It's kind of like politicians always speak in a very, very simple way because they have to make sure everybody, including people who aren't paying attention, kind of understand what they're saying. So everything is always more complicated. So here, what they're going to do is make it adorable. And so here you have the teddy bear praying along with the children. And all of that is to me, is a little bit pandering, you know, but it's okay. What kind of personality is this kid? What kind of personality does he have? He's a nerd.
Introverted.
He's introverted. Yeah, you should get over that, huh? My wife's introverted, and she keeps saying that, you know, you have to leave more space for introverted people. And I always go, why? Right, it's a joke. Anyway, so he's a nerd, parts his hair in the center. How do we know? His hair is parted in the center, he's hunched over, he's wearing a tie, and he's about 8. That tells you something. He's got glasses, thick book, reading through the book, right? Here's his loyal dog. Here are his worn shoes. Here are other books. So he's not just reading a book. He reads books, right? So to tell me who this kid is, you have to put all of these things in here, and then it tells me the story, right? I can't read his mind. I can only see. That's the limitation of a picture. So I have to put all that in to tell the story. And again, look. See? There he is, placed in his imagination. Okay? Every kid who reads a comic book is doing this. Right? Or probably plays video games. Except that turns you into a mass murderer. But that's different. Okay? Here, he is fantasizing about himself as a heroic young man. What's going on here? She's the adult woman, right? And she's checking herself out in the mirror, right? So here's a girl. So here's, you know, the older sister, maybe the mother, right? And here's the little girl looking at what she might become as she gets older, right? And then you throw the little dog in. The little dog familiar is there for cuteness. That's just there. That gets the grandmas. That's the pandering part. Everybody goes, oh, he's cute. I like this picture. Okay? See? She's holding her little brush. You'll notice her brush is a kid's brush. Her pajamas are kids' pajamas. I don't even know what she's wearing. That might be a nightgown from the 40s for all I know. Okay? Here she has probably a bow. We can't see who he is. He's not important, so we don't see his face. Right? It's really about the relationship between these two women, and that's what's going on there. Here is a World War I American soldier talking to a Dutch girl. Okay? Has anybody here ever dove off a high dive? Yeah. It doesn't look as high from the ground as it looks from the top. Right? That's what this story is about. You know, I don't know if a lot of you probably haven't, because the pools don't tend to have high dives anymore. But, you know, when I went swimming as a kid, all pools had high dives. And it was 12 feet, 15 feet, something like that. And you'd always see a kid that would go up there, go out to the end and go, no, I don't think so. And then they had to come in and come back down. And it was like the walk of shame, right? And so he is thinking it through as he's up there. Okay, what's this about? Yeah, our little nerd. It's our little nerd again, right? He's excelling in school, right? See, he's got a certificate, right? Look how big his feet are, okay? Look how big this guy's feet are, right? If you want to make men look funny, and you do, that's what we all do, okay? One of the things you do to make them look a little bit clownish is make their feet a little too big. You make their shoes look like they're a little too big, okay? And he's gonna be a giant. Look at the size of his feet. So he's like a puppy. Look at the size of his hands. See, he's like a puppy. And then he's getting his award. What cracks me up is that this guy's singing his praises, but look at the way he's putting his hand on his head. It's like, it's just, this young man, it's so stupid looking. I mean, it's really funny. And it's so dismissive, right? I mean, it's just incredibly dismissive. And here are other graduation things here. And again, he's talking, and he's like an old geezer. What's happening here?
Getting ready for a date.
There's that. But what's the history of this guy?
Oh, he used to be in the Army.
That's right. He was in the Army. Of course, this is 1942, right? Or that's when he was in college in 1942. Does it look like, what's he doing?
Trying on his old clothes.
He's trying on his old clothes. So the war is over. He's come back. He's trying on his old clothes. And look, he's grown while he was in the Army. Okay? So this is about re-entry into normal life after World War II in this case. Okay? And, he's in his attic bedroom, very Americana. What's happening here? He stepped on her foot, right? It's like that. My daughter's going to her 8th grade dance tonight. I want to be a fly in the corner. It's like a study in awkwardness. All the girls are taller than the boys. It's just really a crack up. Right? Okay, what's happening here? Okay, it's a rumble seat. Basically, what they figured out is that you took the trunk, and you could take a car trunk, put a seat in the car trunk, open up the back, and so a 2-seater car, which was a sports car, could have an extra row of seats in the back. So they're in the rumble seat, and again, she's supposed to be the one that's scared because it's 1940s, but he is, so they're going to think that's funny. And again, here's the puppy, and see, look at him. He thinks it's the best day ever. Right. Of course, he always thinks it's the best day ever. Rumble seats were of great concern to parents. All right. Bench seats in cars were a great concern to parents in the 1940s. They basically thought of them as mobile hotels, and so it was there. If you read documentation from the 1940s, there's lots of concern about bench seats, back seats, rumble seats, and it was always about the virtue of women. It was always about protecting the virtue of women. Whenever they want to tell you what to do, they're protecting you, right? Kennedy? Really pretty old. Here's the old, Geppetto, the olden time woodworker. Okay, what's happening here? Santa Claus is exhausted, isn't he? Right? He's completely pooped, and his elves are doing the rest of the work. And what?
It's Santa out of the midterms.
Yeah. There you go. This is the dad trying to help his son with his homework. Or the son is explaining to the dad about the homework. How do I know that the son is the son and the dad is the dad? Same blue sweater, right? Same blue sweater. Sweater puts it together. Similar hairstyles, a little similar looking, but mainly it's the blue sweater. Okay? Arguing with a kid about who's out or who's not. A different workup of this. See how the reporters have like funny looking shoes. First grown up hairstyle. Okay, what's happening here? Now take a look at that teacher for the moment. How would you describe this woman? Single? You think she's single? Okay, why do you think she's single? Kind of awkward looking, a little bit awkward. Okay, small chin. She seems very nice though, doesn't she? She seems very nice. You wouldn't call her beautiful. She's more motherly. She's caring, right? So what he's kind of depicting is an archetype, which is sort of a single woman, probably not married, may not have kids of her own, but loves children, so she's a teacher. Okay? Because he chose this woman. He interviewed different models, and he chose her for maximum sort of poignancy, you might say, maximum effect, right? And then the kids show her all of this appreciation. Okay? If she had 3 kids of her own, she was cute, she had a hot husband, you know, she'd like it. It'd be nice, right? But she has a fulfilling life outside of here. So this woman, for her, it's really all about the kids, right? Notice how the desk is flat. See how flat that desk is? See how the top is orthographic? Is that the term orthographic? When the lines never meet? Isometric. It's isometric. The desk is isometric, right? These desks aren't isometric. This desk is isometric because he doesn't want this desk to compete with her. So here in the middle of this composition that has all this depth in it, he's put an isometric desk in there because he doesn't want that to compete with this. He cheated. Keep that in mind. He cheated. Or he was clever. He's Norman Rockwell. He's clever. Okay. What do you think he thinks of the calendar?
He's glad he bought it.
Yes. He appreciates the artfulness of the calendar. Okay, yeah. What do you think she thinks of the calendar? Well, she might even be a little amused. The look on her face, she doesn't look really angry exactly. It's sort of like a, what's wrong with men? Or men are so stupid, you know, right? And look at him. He's sort of well past this stage if you take a look at all this, right? Right? So he's well past the stage, but he's the singing cowboy, very old sailor. Look at this. Do we anticipate him being a particularly good painter? He's having a good time, isn't he? It's a soldier on his leisure time activity. Now, the reason we don't think of him being all that good is because of the way his hat's on his head, right? See how the hat's bent in the front, right? In other words, right up in here, right where his brain is, the hat's being worn a little funny. So, remember, the hat covers the brain, the hair covers the brain. If you want the brain to look like maybe it's not working so well, or that he's not getting it, or he's not a very good painter, have some fun with the hat, have some fun with the hair. Okay, here's basically just a shot showing, how she's painted. Take a look at this. You don't see that many Norman Rockwell drawings, and this is a Norman Rockwell drawing. Okay? And the composition goes like this. There's the bottom part of the triangle. See how we pick up the hands and then come into her, and then there's the top of the triangle right there. And their heads all line up. Who are these people?
Family.
Okay, how do we know? Somebody other than Wyatt. How do we know? Take a look at the young woman's hairstyle, and then take a look at the woman on the right. Take a look at her hairstyle. Okay? So young women care about their hairstyle generally more than older women do, although that's probably not so true today. Notice how she has the braids. She has, a young woman's hairstyle, but that it looks very similar to the woman behind her. And the woman behind her looks very similar to her, except her nose is bigger, her ears are bigger. All those parts of your body grow your entire life, and we sort of intuitively know that, so she's just picking that up. See what I'm talking about? And then the grandmother, basically, the grandmother's hair you can't really see, but her face is similar to theirs. Okay? Dying grandmother. Let's take a look at this for a moment. There's the dog for cuteness. And in case the dog's not cute enough, he's got a little clown collar on. Oh. Okay? Okay. So, who's the smartest guy in the picture? The clown. Well, wait a minute. He's wearing a clown suit. He's got little puffy balls on his head. Why isn't he the clown or the dumb guy in the picture? Yeah. He's sitting erect. Also, see this hand position? That's explaining, right? Exactly. Exactly. He is the smart guy.
It's fun to break
Whatever,
convention.
right? Okay. Who is he pointing at? Who's he pointing at? He's going, look here. Is he the smart guy? No, he's already drunk a fifth of scotch. Right? He's got one of those broom-like mustaches. His hat is on sideways. I mean, that's not a jaunty angle. That's just because he banged into something, the hat went there, and he never noticed it. Right? Look at this guy here. Is he a smart guy? Right? These guys have actual clownish faces. See, this guy here, he has a normal face. Right? These guys, he has a normal face painted like a clown. These guys have clownish faces painted like normal faces. Okay? So they're the actual. Look at this guy. It looks like it hurts him to think. Right? I mean, doesn't it? Right? See how it goes in and out, and he's going like, he's doing one of those things, right? And he's got this sort of stubby cigar. Who is she? She shows up in many, many movies. Who is she? She's the ingenue. Okay? So, these guys are secondary players. He is the star of the scene. She's the ingenue of the scene. Now, the ingenue back then was almost always a young woman. She was almost always a young woman who was 17, 18, 19, right? If she's 17, the idea is she's appealing, but keep your hands off, right? If she's 18, she's inexperienced, so maybe you don't keep your hands off, but you're very nice to her. You see what I mean? She's an object of desire. Frequently, she is an object of desire for the hero, right? She'll be the daughter of the owner of the circus. And this is the underappreciated clown who really runs everything. She secretly loves him. He's a little too old for her. Not a lot too old, but a little too old for her. And if it's a love story, the whole thing resolves in the third act. You see what I mean? Okay? So, he's like a rodeo clown. His job is making sure that the wild animals don't kill the performers, right? These guys are effectively bit players. These guys are here for comic relief, right? Also, if it's a G-rated film, right when we think these two are going to kiss or something's going to happen, one of these idiots stumbles in the room and breaks it up. Okay? That's what happens with Tarzan and Jane. Tarzan and Jane, it's a love story. Tarzan and Jane fall in love. Except it's a PG-rated film, lots of kids in the room. We don't want to show what actually happens when adults fall in love. Not teenagers, not kids, but adults fall in love, right? So what happens is, every time we think that Tarzan and Jane might have an intimate moment, right? Forget sex. They may just kiss, right? Then Turk comes stumbling into the room with a bunch of animals, and everybody breaks into song, and that moment is broken up, right? So you have sexual tension, but you keep it PG because nothing ever gets a chance to develop. That's Kirk's function. He is a comic sidekick. Kirk is a comic sidekick. That role has a job, and that's what they do. So that's what these guys do. Now, today, the ingenue would be much more sophisticated than this. For example, in Tangled, Rapunzel's an ingenue, right? So Rapunzel is a girl who lives in a tower all of her life, leaves the tower, she's 17, 18, something like that, and it's girl meets world, right? So it's actually a coming-of-age story. It's really not a princess story. It's a coming-of-age story, and she's the ingenue. She's the ingenue. But in this case, the modern ingenue has much more agency. This ingenue doesn't have a lot of agency. She's basically a reward. This guy ends up with her and the circus. She's part of the reward package that he gets for doing a good job. So, as a person, she's much more diminished than we would like today, right? Today, you may not even have him. You may have her, and she's the ingenue, right? Now, Rapunzel goes out, meets a guy, charming, handsome, smooth talker. He wants to sell her to people, right? So it's a metaphor. He wants everything she's got, right? Okay? And Rapunzel has to figure out what he's about, and then you discover he can't solve problems very well on his own. All his solutions just cause more problems, right? So the male hero isn't very smart. Well, that's good, because it gets him out of the way. That way, she can come of age. She solves her own problems, right? In the end, she doesn't marry him, right? In Cinderella, they get married, right? In the earlier princess movies, her great reward is that she gets to get married, right? That's what she gets to do. Or she gets to marry out of her class. That's what happens to Cinderella, right? Okay? In Aladdin, the story's about Aladdin, right? Aladdin gets to marry out of his class. He gets to be rich and get a cute princess at the same time. All he has to do is, stop lying for about 20 minutes. Okay? Right? So even Aladdin is pretty retrograde with regard to how you handle women, right? However, if you look at Frozen, there you have an ingenue, which is the younger sister, and then you have an older sister who has a different dilemma. She has a different dilemma, which is she has to embrace her power, and the younger sister is just going through the Rapunzel-like ingenue experience, right? But the older sister, from the beginning of the film, has the power to control the situation, but she won't use it. So part of what the film is about is teaching women that A, they have power, and B, to use it, right? Because all the men are lining up and saying, no, that's bad, your power is bad, you being powerful is bad. Now, don't be a bitch like that Hillary, See what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know, that's, nobody's called, I mean, I have, called Trump an asshole, but that's, I don't know, there's just something about that woman I don't like. Well, let me see. She might become the first female president of the United States. If you're a bit of a sexist, that might be that vague something you can't put your finger on that you don't like, right? Right? That she's beating up the guys and she's going to end up, becoming a president. That's what happens with the older sister in Rapunzel. From the beginning of the film, she has the solution. But she doesn't know it, and she won't use it. And at the end of the film, she does. Right? You see what I'm saying? But she literally, that film is about her taking the power away from men and becoming a self-actualized woman. Right? And then the younger sister is going through the Rapunzel experience. Right? So it's operating on two levels. But it's a coming-of-age film. That's the modern ingenue. Right? Okay? The ingenue in, say, Hunger Games is Katniss. The beginning of Hunger Games, Katniss is a girl inexperienced in the world. Right? So it's girl meet world. She's the ingenue. She's the object of desire. Everybody wants her. But at the same time, she has to come of age and basically take control of her life. Right? There you go. So it's grow up, girl, feel the power. Stuff like that. Look at this. She's driving along, ignoring them for very good reason. Look at them. And he's basically plucking a flower, saying, she loves me not, she loves me, she loves me not. This is a joke that was probably hilariously funny in the 1940s. And people today are like, So, here's a guy carrying, a woman who's half fish in a basket. Right? To a sushi restaurant. I don't know where. Here's, again, fantasy, right? There's the writer imagining the story that he's writing. What are these women doing?
Having a secret conversation.
Secret conversation. Okay. What kind of personalities do they have?
They're rich.
Well, yeah, they're middle class. Uppity? Yeah. Yeah. How can you tell? Are they a little self-righteous, maybe? Do these look like women who are easily outraged by the behavior of others? Yeah. Yeah. So they're kind of uptight. They kind of look like maybe, spinster aunts a little bit. I mean, they might have, husbands and children, but they're still kind of spinster aunt-like. Yeah. It's that arch in their back. You see the arch in the back? It's sort of like, that's like having a stick down your back, right? That's like the essence of uptight. All right? And see how close together their faces are? Is that normal? I mean, their noses are touching. I hope they've taken a breath mint, right? I mean, their noses are practically touching. What's happening here?
Trying to convince the woman that he's the person that is guilty or not guilty.
Mm-hmm. She's the lone holdout on the jury. Now, look how the men are talking to her. This guy's lecturing her and sticking his hand in her face. Right? Okay? This is Norman Rockwell, by the way. This guy's just giving up, he's falling asleep. Okay? Missing out on the party. This is again after World War II. Okay? These guys might have been in World War I, right? Here's a local cop. You know it's safe if your local cop is shaped like a bowling ball, right? I mean, he doesn't really do anything except give parking tickets, right? I mean, he doesn't, there's not a whole lot for him to do in this town, right? So it's kind of very 1890s, and he's just come back from the war in the Pacific. So these guys are commiserating with him. They know, because maybe they were in the previous war, and then he's just come back, and then These are young boys looking forward to their war. Of course, they didn't know that Korea and Vietnam was coming, but you know, that's really what they were doing. And then again, he represents the front of the stage. You know, that kind of stuff. Okay, what's happening here? Okay, young love, right? Okay. Well, it really looks like this guy probably already knows her, right? So, see how flat it is, right? So it's very easy to see. And then when you get in here, see? She looks like she's rather pleased by the interruption. So this is not. And also, she's rather formal. Look at, she's got thick arms there. You know, she's a serving wench or something. Now the other thing you'll notice is areas of complexity, areas of simplicity, areas of complexity, areas of simplicity, complexity, simplicity, complexity, simplicity. What's happening here? What do you think this is about? Can I get your number?
He gave them free service.
You think that's it? Yeah, you think they're working him for the ice cream?
Yeah.
Right? How cynical. How cynical, I tell you. So we know these girls are really attentive, right? And we know because you see the arch in her back, right? And look at this ponytail up here. That just says kid, right? He's got an arched back, right? So notice how his hair color and her hair color are the same, right? So this is how one of the ways that we know. His body language is similar to her body language. She's pretty skinny. She looks like she's maybe, 14, 15? He's pretty skinny too, see? So he's not fully grown either. Here is the friend, and you can tell she thinks he's just dreaming, right? Look at this kid over here. Right? Yeah, he's over there. And, he hates all of them. And this is young Donald Trump. Okay. All right. That would explain a lot. And then here's the photography, see? All right. Here's a drawing that led to that. What's he doing?
Reading his sister's diary. That's what
You know that's rich. That's rich in information and amusement, especially at that age. What's happening here?
College.
Okay? What else? Is it the first person in his family to go to college? Look at the father. He's a working guy, right? Okay? The dad's basically reconciled to the fact that his son is going to go to college. Probably even supports it. But also knows he's losing his son, right? Because his son will come back and never be the same. All right? What's happening here?
left alone with her little brother.
And this says here, babysitter. So she's basically, also look at the different patterns, right? Very Americana. What's this about? Right? Okay. So, what can we learn from Norman Rockwell? How to create a character. You see what I'm saying? And how to compose characters and how to work with characters. Right? Norman Rockwell is not just the kind of old-fashioned looking Saturday Evening Post guy. He's an absolute master of his craft. He's an absolute master. He does with characterization what Landecker does with fashion, which is he's the best ever at doing this. Okay? So, he knows how to create kind of quiet, meaningful moments like this. There they are getting a marriage license. Look at this guy here. He's signed like 10,000 marriage licenses, right? And then again, you start getting into this stuff. Oh, this is showing individual guys and showing her individually. And then this is some text on Norman Rockwell. Here's the photography that he shot. Norman Rockwell didn't make it all up out of his head. He used local people. Here's some more of his, what's happening here?
Clown's on his break,
Yeah.
and the boy's bothering.
Yeah, it's like, go away, kid. Leave me alone, kid. I'm reading the paper here. It's an unfunny clown. Rockwell at work. Look at her. This is like a battle cruiser, It's like a dreadnought. Right, this is a formidable woman. Taylor. He's really, really good at characterization. Right? So, here are some different clown solutions that he's using. Here's another one here. So what's happening here? Yeah, he's joining, he's entering the circus, right? And here's the impresario. How do I know he's the impresario? He has a vest, he has a watch on, his body language. He just looks like a guy who's constantly selling people something all the time, doesn't he? Right? Then we have our cast of secondary characters. Notice how everybody has kind of an extreme expression, right? Clown, sort of a largish woman, kind of sneaky looking guy. Who's she? She's the ingenue, right? Who's he? Right? This is the love interest right here. See? Now, he's not ready for it yet. Sometimes the male hero back then, or the female hero now, shows up, and he's what they call an incompetent hero, which is what Luke Skywalker is. And so what happens is he has to grow up before he can be the man that she needs. Right? See what I'm saying? So she patiently waits for him. Back then, she patiently waits for him. She encourages him. She tells him he can do it. So basically, the woman's role is to get the man to be the man he's supposed to be. In the 1930s. Not today, but in the 1930s. Because that's how these pictures are set up. See how close he is to her face? I like this one here. What do you think is happening? What do you think the mother and the teacher are doing? They're making a deal, aren't they? What do you think the deal's about? The what? Look at the kid. He's got a big Band-Aid on his head, right? You see what I'm saying? Does he look like a well-behaved, in-control child? No. What's the teacher holding behind her back?
Switch.
A book and a switch. Look at the big smile on the mother's face. It's like, she's handing her kid off to be disciplined and basically civilized, right? Okay, she's a young mother. She's handing her kid off to an older woman who knows how to take her child and essentially civilize him, right? How do we know that he needs to be civilized? Look at him, right? Okay? Goofy guys. So, here, this is the one that I've talked about. When I explain context, I always talk about this one. Okay? All right. Here's an adult man beating a child. Okay? Isn't that funny? All right? And it's in school. Isn't that hysterical? All right? Now, that's Tom Sawyer getting, that guy's really beating. Look at the look on Tom Sawyer's face. Now, context is the environment. The environment tells me what to think about what's happening in the story. because it's taking place in the 19th century, because it's taking place 100 years earlier, and everybody kind of goes, well, you know, they did things different back then. This is funny. If it was in a modern classroom, right, it's grounds for a lawsuit, and it's not funny at all, right? But, you know, in the time, that's how humor changes over time. Okay? Here he's showing this other kid a dead rabbit, right? Ichabod Crane. Visiting grandma. This is one of Norman Rockwell's war posters. This is actually a Norman Rockwell poster that I own at home. I have this poster. Does this guy look smart? Look what's on his arm. It's all women's names. And also, by the way, the names are all from where he's Sadie, Rosietta, Ming Tu, Mimi, Olga, Sing Lee. It's sort of like every port that he's ever been, he has a girl's name sort of on his arm. And the local one is Betty, but that'll only last a little while. Laurel and Hardy, bunch of men playing at a woman's makeup table. Okay, so look at her. What's she doing? She's looking in the mirror nervously saying, am I going to turn out all right? Look at the expression on her face. It's kind of melancholy, don't you think? See? Now she's pretty, so she's going to be fine, you know, or she's pretty and the idea of the story is she'll be fine, right? But she doesn't know that, right? So she's got that look on her face, and of course what she's got is a movie starlet's face in her magazine, so she's comparing herself to the movie starlet, okay? Which is what the magazine wants you to do. Okay? All right. It just goes on and on. This is a big file, and it's got lots of great stuff in it. So why don't you guys bring your flash drives up here? Okay?
Yeah.